according to statistics from Johns Hopkins University, there are now more than 74.6 million coronavirus cases worldwide. More than 1.65 million people have died. In the United States, 17 million people have been diagnosed with COVID, and there is now more than 308,000 deaths due to COVID from the United States. And, I was just thinking as I was reading this statistic, Yo-Yo and Vanessa, yesterday, my recollection is correct, we were just a little over 300,000. We forget what the number was yesterday. And I think yesterday I announced we just reached 300,000. It was 300,000 and change. So in the last 24 hours since we've been on the air, 8,000 people in the United States of America have died from COVID.
Oh, wow.
When you think about 8,000 people died, I think is if
24 hours. Yeah. We definitely said 300.
Yeah, approximately. So if you do the math, that would be 8,000 people. Would that be, let's see, 100 people would be 2,400. So 48 would be about somewhere between 300 and 400 people dying every hour.
Yikes.
Wow.
Right? If I'm doing that right. Between 300 and 400 people dying every hour in the United States. 300 to 400 people? It's like an airplane crash every hour.
Yeah, it's about 330 people. Just did the math a little bit.
Right.
330 people an hour.
330 people, right.
Oh, that's scary.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So during this show,
An hour?
by the time we're done with schmooze, which will take about 304,000 people dead yesterday. So much for getting rid of the beep.
Right.
That didn't work out very well. So there was 304,000 people dead. So it was 4,000 people have died in the last 24 hours. So let's redo that math.
So 4,000.
4,000.
Right, 24.
So you've 24, about 50.
166.
166 every hour.
Every hour.
100. So by the time we're done with schmooze, which will take about 35 to 40 minutes between the time I'm talking now and the time schmooze is done, 100 people are going to die, approximately.
That's horrible. From COVID.
Yeah. Isn't that awful?
It's horrible. What's crazy? Like, I feel like I heard more about the people dying back, like when the pandemic first started, like how Brooklyn just had so many deaths, so many bodies that they had to put them in U-Haul trucks and whatnot. We don't really hear too much about that unless like we're watching this show, like when we actually, tell the people, we update them every single day with the cases, but I don't hear it as much on mainstream news anymore.
I think people just get immune to it.
Yeah. Is that the same with you?
Yeah, it's a commonplace already. Like, not that I'm comparing this to 9/11, and every life is important. So I'm not commenting on that. But, during 9/11, there was tribute after tribute after tribute to
keep on
people who died in 9/11, memorials with names. And I'm not taking anything away from that.
Yeah.
But, there's a war here also against the virus. And, people are forgotten, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's hard to compare them because then one's an apple, one's an orange. When people die from a terrorist attack versus COVID. I'm just saying, they're both tragedies, and we just kind of accept this tragedy more, I think. I don't know why. Today, some good news.
Oh, good.
Yeah, give me good news, Brad.
Yeah, we're one day closer to getting rid of Donald Trump. Also,
yes,
that wasn't even in my cards. I'm just telling you. My good news of the day.
He's just brightening up the mood.
Yes. Also, an FDA advisory panel voted 20-0 today to recommend an emergency use authorization for a second COVID vaccine developed by drugmaker Moderna and the National Institutes of Health. Moderna, I remember if I told you yesterday, they use RNA, which is the building blocks of DNA, to basically give instructions to the DNA to build antibodies. This is their first drug that they've ever brought to market. And the reason why they were able to bring this to market so fast is because they were working on a SARS drug using RNA, and they basically have tweaked it for COVID. And just as a little side bit, If you notice, the name of Moderna is modern RNA.
Oh, wow.
Model RNA. I forgot if it was model RNA or modern RNA, but it's RNA is in the name because that's that's how they make their money. Now, the committee's recommendation now goes to the FDA, which is going to discuss any issues, and it is expected that a final decision will be issued tomorrow to use Moderna's vaccine as well. So we're now going to have 2 vaccines that are going to be given out. Hopefully that will speed up the process of people getting vaccinated. Now, yesterday also, the FDA said that in each particular vial of the Pfizer vaccine, they have actually more vaccine than is actually needed. So now there's actually a 40% leftover rate or disposal rate or whatever you want to call it. So they're now going to be able to use one vial to actually vaccinate more than one person. So because one of the concerns was that there's not going to be enough vaccination to vaccinate everybody. So this is one way in which they're going to be able to expand the vaccine supply by up to 40%.
Nice.
Now, Saudi Arabia's health minister got a dose of COVID-19 vaccine today, kicking off Saudi Arabia's mass vaccination drive. The big question is when is Biden and actually Trump and Pence and Kamala Harris going to get the vaccine? For 2 reasons. Number one, they're our leaders and they should be vaccinated, especially Biden, Trump, Pence. They're all over 70.
Yeah.
We don't want I don't want Trump to, get sick and die again. I mean, I don't know. He had it already, but who knows? Maybe he can get it again. I have no idea. But they haven't been vaccinated yet. Now, Biden is expected to publicly get the vaccine next week. Pence says he's going to go in front of the cameras to get it as well. Trump, who had COVID, he is not going to be vaccinated until it's recommended by his White House medical team. If they hold back vaccinating people who have already had it, I wonder if that's the reason. On a side note, the French president, Emmanuel Macron, has tested positive for COVID, which basically goes back to coronavirus knows no boundaries, knows no social status, knows nothing. All right. So
I think we found that out when Tom Hanks had it.
That's right.
We were like, wait,
right.
Celebrity that has it. Right.
Right. That's right. And we found out when Trump got it and everyone at the White House got it.
Yeah.
Now people, the big question is what's the difference between, because now you have 2 different vaccines. Does one work better than the other? They're based on similar theory that they're going to inject RNA, synthetic RNA into your body, which is going to instruct your DNA to build antibodies against the COVID virus. The big difference between the Moderna one and the Pfizer one, they both have over 94% efficacy rate. And while you were frozen yesterday, Nesquik and I decided that efficacy could be the leading word for the 2021 word of the year, because I've never heard anybody use that word before. And all of a sudden, every day, all I hear is efficacy, efficacy, efficacy.
Right.
So they both have a 94% efficacy rate, which means, success rate against preventing the coronavirus from attacking your body. The big difference is how it's stored. The Pfizer vaccine has to be stored in temperatures that fall below 100 degrees minus Celsius, meaning you have to have it in deep freeze, and it could only stay out in the open for up to 5 hours. The Moderna one can stay in minus 20 degree freeze, which is like a normal freezer, and can stay in a refrigerator for up to 30 days. What's going to happen is the Pfizer ones are going to go to huge hospitals that have the facilities to put something in a deep freeze. And the Moderna ones are going to go to the more rural areas or perhaps even big medical clinics that don't have these, huge refrigeration units that can freeze something to minus 100 degrees. But most medical clinics have freezers.
Right.
And most medical clinics have refrigerators. And you know how you're going to tell the difference of whether you got the Moderna one or the Pfizer one?
Yeah, how would one know?
Besides if it feels colder as it goes in your body.
Oh.
I think you're going to be able to tell the difference between something minus 20 and minus 100. But the big difference is going to be the Pfizer one is taken 21 days apart, and the Moderna one is taken 30 days apart. Or 28 days apart. So when you get your vaccination, you have to have one vaccination and go back again for the second shot. And whether you go back 21 days or 28 days later will determine whether you have the Pfizer one or the Moderna one. That's how you know. That's how you're going to know. That's really a big difference. Mike Pompeo, the head of the State Department, he invited people to an indoor holiday party at the State Department in honor of himself and his wife, Susan. A lot of people decided not to show up. And it was a result of an outcry from public health officials and U.S. lawmakers warning people that the reception had the hallmarks of a super spreader event. Now, Pompeo eventually canceled the speech and instead tapped a substitute speaker. The event was dedicated to the family members of diplomats serving overseas in dangerous posts. Okay, so you're honoring people in dangerous posts, and then you're having a party to make everybody completely unsafe and have a super spreader event. But eventually, it was shut down. Meanwhile, Biden has said for his inauguration, he doesn't want anybody to show up. He says, stay home. Don't come to Washington, D.C. for the inauguration. And of course, this is due to the coronavirus pandemic and concerns of a spread with crowds and travel. So instead of traveling to Washington, D.C., Biden is asking Americans to participate in the inauguration by watching from home in accordance with public health guidelines. The presidential inauguration is scheduled for Wednesday, January 20th, 2021, which will be a fantastic day in American history because we finally get rid of the former pumpkin, now known as Crybaby. Biden he's tapped Deb Haaland, a Democratic congresswoman from New Mexico, to serve as the first Native American Interior Secretary. So this is the first Native American who is ever going to be at a cabinet level in any presidential administration. 171-year-old institution. The Interior, the Interior is, the head of the Interior. They're responsible for all land use in the United States. And when you think of land use, you think of the theft of land by the Americans of the Native Americans, or the Americans, the Europeans, I guess, of the Native Americans land. And it's very, I guess,
ironic, almost even.
Ironic, and at the same time, celebratory that, finally, given the history of Native Americans in the United States, and I'm far from an expert on American history and the theft of, native lands by the Europeans and by the, United States in their, 1700s and 1800s. But certainly, I know enough to know it happened, and Native Americans ultimately were on the short end of that bargain. It was actually a war that, many times they just took it by force.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, as Nesquik said, quite ironic, but also celebratory. So congratulations to her. They manage, by the way, the Interior Secretary manages roughly 1/5 of the land in the United States, and she, along with Buttigieg, who is now going to be the Transportation Secretary, are going to play very critical roles in combating global warming. So I think that's going to be a very big thing. And by the way, which we have not talked about at all yet, the Senate race in Georgia. You realize how important it is, or maybe you don't realize how important it is. Do you realize how important it is my question.
I mean, after this election, we saw what that finish line can do. So it's so important for our state Senate.
Yeah. Well, right now, there are 50 Republican senators, 48 Democratic senators. 2 Senate seats are up for grabs. They both happen to be in Georgia in the runoff elections. If it's won by both Democrats, then it's going to be a 50-50 tie in the Senate. And then the tiebreaker goes to Kamala Harris, who's the vice president, who becomes the tiebreaker in the Senate. Why is that important? Obviously, yes, you want Democrats, you want a majority of Democrats, at least, from our perspective, because then, Biden will be able to pass a lot of immigration reform and many other things. But, some people say, well, it's 50-50. It's not that big of a deal because even if it's 51-49, some Republicans will come over, moderate Republicans, other Democrats, it's very close, but the point is this: at 50-50, the Democrats pick the leader of the Senate, and the majority leader of the Senate decides what things come up for vote. So if the Republicans, Mitch McConnell controls the Senate, and Biden wants to put in, DACA, amnesty for DACA recipients, and it passes the House, because Mitch McConnell is now the Republican leader, he doesn't have to bring it up for a vote. So there'll be no vote. He controls the calendar for the legislature, who's voting.
Oh, what?
So it's the majority decides that.
Right.
So it's not only important just to get more Democratic votes, but you want a Democratic majority so that they can, decide what's coming up for a vote. Because Biden could give all the legislation he wants, but if you can't get a majority of senators to agree to bring this up to a vote, then there's no vote on any legislation. One of the things that one of the people, if you remember Merrick Garland, for example, Merrick Garland was nominated for the Supreme Court in 2016, right before Obama left, and Republicans refused to have a vote on him. It's legislation. We're just not going to schedule him to have a vote. Now at the end of it. Okay. So there was no vote, which is what left open the opening for Brett Kavanaugh to come and get that seat. So now there's talk about Merrick Garland being the U.S. attorney, but he is on the circuit court for Washington, D.C. And I don't think you're going to see Biden say who's going to be the U.S. attorney till after the Georgia runoff, because he has to replace Merrick Garland on the circuit court. And if the Republicans control the Senate, there'll be no vote. There'll just be an empty seat there for 4 years until the next president. So it's a very important election.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important election. So, the runoff is between Senator Perdue, who is the current senator, and he is going up against a young kid, John Ossoff, and it's very close. It's within 1% or 2%. And Kelly Loeffler, who holds the other seat, and she's running up against Democratic Raphael Warnock, and he is a pastor, and he took over the church where Martin Luther King was a pastor.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So he was. Wow. I don't know if he took it. I don't think he took it over directly after the death of Martin Luther King because he's too young. But he is at some point he took over that church.
Wow.
And that's what propelled him, because obviously it's a very important church and a very important congregation, politically. So in-person voting is starting on December 15th, and Georgians can vote by mail. And here's something also very interesting. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported that according to an updated voter registration list, 76,000 new voters registered in Georgia between October deadline of the deadline to vote for the Senate runoff, meaning that at some point after the presidential election and before the deadline to vote for the Senate Runoff, 76,000 new voters came on board. Now, are they Republicans? Are they Democrats?
Right. So we don't even know.
We don't know. We just have 76,000 more voters are going to vote for this Senate runoff than voted in the presidential election 8 weeks ago.
I think people are really realizing how important, I think there was a lot of awareness built off of how important it is to not just vote for our president, but for our government, our state Senate.
Yeah.
Do you think some of those come from Stacey Abrams? Is it Stacey Abrams?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she leads the voter drive there in Georgia. What has been reported so far is that 56% of the new voters are under the age of 35.
Wow.
Which you would assume then are more liberal. You would assume that younger people are more liberal. Not always. Okay. 46% identified as white, which means that 54% identified as a minority.
Yeah.
So based on those statistics, you would say
that most of it would be Democrat.
It would be a Democratic vote. You would guess that, 54% minority.
And that's not even saying.
And under 35.
Right. And the fact that, the 46 is, you said 46 is white?
46% white. Now.
And that's not even saying that all of them would be Republicans. A lot of them.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Look, you're looking at a white guy who's a Democrat, right?
Right.
Okay. So
I was looking good then.
Thank you. You're a good looking Democrat. And by the way, just as a reminder, Biden only won Georgia by 12,000 votes.
Wow.
So these 76,000 votes are going to make the difference, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't have to go insane and recount.
And it is going to make an enormous difference about what Biden can get done. We're an immigration show for immigration. If the Democrats both win, Ossoff and Warnock, the Democrats control the Senate, the House, the executive office, which is the President of the United States, you're going to see a lot of immigration reform. If the Democrats don't win, you're going to see a lot of, I believe, executive orders by Biden that will do things to make immigrants' lives easier. I would find it hard to believe, but you never know. I would find it very hard to believe that a huge amnesty bill would ever come up for a vote in the Senate controlled by Mitch McConnell. So it's extraordinarily important.
Yeah.
Extraordinarily important. If you're thinking about immigration reform, extraordinarily important this election. Now, Mitch McConnell says Congress has finally made some progress on the coronavirus stimulus bill. The $900 bill. Sounds like a $900 bill.
Right.
The $1 billion bill on the table includes an additional $300 a week in jobless benefits and a possible new round of stimulus checks at $600. So you're going to get a check for $600 instead of two checks for $1,200, and instead of a jobless benefit of $600 every week, you're going to get $300 every week.
That's not cool.
Not cool.
No, that's not good news.
Now,
it's good news they're getting something.
But, better than nothing. But you know what? After waiting all this time, please.
Do you think is this Trump that's giving it?
It's Republicans.
Do you feel like they did that because they lost?
Yeah, I think actually Trump wanted to do more. I think there's a lot of conservative Republicans that don't spend government money.
What you have it there for?
Right.
Use it for your people.
Jeez. Now, for comparison, Canada has been sending $2,000 a month as part of their stimulus to everybody.
Oh my God!
Man.
Now,
I saw this. I saw this on Instagram. I was like,
what?
Yeah, but now that's not 2,000 US. That's 2,000 Canadian, which is
Canadian.
But still, it's still
more than the 1,200 though.
More than the 1,200 that the US was giving. Australia was sending 1,000 Australian. I don't know what that is to an American dollar. And And the United Kingdom has been replacing 80% of people's salaries.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw.
And they want us to care for our country?
Yeah. I saw that same post on Instagram.
That is wild.
All right, and finally, we had a foot of snow, which is why I'm in my apartment today and not in the studio.
Yes,
Those living around in New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, they woke up this morning to 12 inches of snow, 10 inches in Central Park, which is right by me. In addition, parts of central Pennsylvania and upstate New York received snow measured in feet. It was very cold.
It was. It still is.
It was extraordinarily cold. An Australian jogger. We're going to go to Australia first.
All right, let's do it.
An Australian jogger was attacked, I guess, not attached, was attacked by a kangaroo who may have been attracted by her Sarah Jessica Parker perfume. Tracy Noonan appeared on Australia's Ross and Russel radio program to recount the ordeal, which occurred earlier this month in Melbourne. Tracy said, "I thought, oh my goodness, this is now going to claw me to death," recalling the experience of being knocked down by a kangaroo on her morning run. Noonan, who claims she often sees kangaroos from afar on her jogs, told the radio host that this particular kangaroo took a special interest in her, following her along and even jumping 3 fences to get closer. By the time the kangaroo was making its way over the 3rd fence, she knew she was going to be in trouble. This thing is hopping over fences. And you think kangaroos are cute. They're not. They're very vicious.
No.
Yeah, they're vicious.
Yeah, they'll whoop your butt.
They will whoop your butt. Now, while turning to flee, Noonan said she soon felt the kangaroo hit her in the back, causing her to fall to the ground. Cautiously standing back up and inching away, Noonan distracted the kangaroo long enough to find safety inside a stranger's home. But that didn't stop the kangaroo from sniffing around the driveway for the next 2 minutes. She stayed inside the residence, one of whom went outside to scare the kangaroo away, only to find that her stalker was still waiting for her when she eventually left the house. It was something out of a horror movie. A local park ranger would later tell Noonan that her perfume, it was the Sarah Jessica Parker collection, was the reason that the kangaroo took such an intense interest in her.
What about the perfume did that kangaroo want?
I don't know. I don't know if the kangaroo wanted to mate or kill her. I don't know. But all I can tell you is, if you're going to Australia, Vanessa, leave your Sarah Jessica Parker perfume behind.
Please.
All right. This is our public service announcement to you. Leave the Sarah Jessica Parker.
We don't want to see them beat up.
And by the way,
I love her.
And by the way, if you are Sarah Jessica Parker and you are watching, stay out of Australia. It's going to be way too dangerous for you. If your smell makes kangaroos do this.
I doubt. I don't even think she wears her own perfume, but that's just me.
Do you think Gwyneth Paltrow wears her?
No.
Her candle? Did she use her scented candle?
No. Yeah.
Meanwhile, moving over to Paris, officials announced Monday that the elite breakdancing is going to make an Olympics debut in Paris. It's going to be the first dance sport. It's going to be an Olympic event. Breakdancing. Isn't that kind of cool?
That is pretty dope. I have a lot of friends that do that.
Yeah, they're calling it a dance sport event. It's the first dance sport event to appear at the Olympic Games. They had it previously staged at the Youth Olympics in Buenos Aires 2 years ago. The International Olympic Committee Executive Board also announced that skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing. What's sport climbing?
Sport climbing.
I don't know what
maybe climbing mountains, like the mountain wall.
Maybe. I don't know. Skateboarding for sure. That's cool. Surfing. That's cool. And sport climbing. They're all going to debut as Olympic events.
Wow.
At the Olympics in 2024. Now, Sean Tay, president of the World Dance Sport Federation, said today is a historic occasion, not only for B-boys and B-girls, but for all the dancers around the world. We will redouble our efforts in the lead up to the Olympic Games to make sure the breaking competition at Paris 2024 will be unforgettable. All right, guys, off the top of your head, now that you know, that elite breakdancing is an Olympic event.
Okay.
I'm asking for your opinion. What country wins the gold? What country wins the silver? What country wins the bronze right now?
I would say China wins the gold.
Really?
Yeah.
China as a gold medal breakdancing?
Yeah, they're like Asians period. Asians period are just like ridiculous when it comes to acrobats.
Really?
And, yeah.
And
So
dancing.
I know a lot of breakdancers that are Asian.
Okay.
I would say the United States would take silver because, you know, I think it started here.
And what about bronze?
And bronze,
UK?
I
Possibly.
was going to give it to a European country. I would have said a European country.
GR?
No.
No, they're not
I
breaking.
think UK probably. Probably UK. Yeah, but either Japan or China would take the gold.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would even throw Korea in there too. You got those K-poppers, they break it down sometimes.
There you go.
By the way, Marge Higgs says America gold, China silver, Jamaica bronze.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
They dance in Jamaica.
They do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, true.
I forgot about Jamaica.
That makes sense.
I forgot about Jamaica. Very good, Marge. I forgot. I was thinking quickly, going around the world. I'm like, where are they where are they breakdancing?
Yeah.
And sports climbing is a form of rock. It's a form of rock climbing.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Sports climbing.
Probably like
mountain.
The fastest, maybe.
Fastest man up the mountain.
Yeah. Maybe just one of those wall things.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I can tell you, if they want to put a kangaroo at the bottom of the mountain, I think they would. Short of that, I don't know if I'm going to get up the mountain. That's
right. Wall climbing is hard. Rock climbing is hard.
Moving on to Russia.
Okay.
Generous French philanthropist has left a sum of money to some very unusual beneficiaries in Russia. A bunch of cats living in the basement of the Hermitage Museum in Russia. Around 50 cats live in the famous St. Petersburg Museum. The Hermitage Museum, I was actually there. It's called the Winter Palace because that was the Winter Palace of the Tsars of Russia. And it is also home to more than 3 million works of art, artifacts, sculptures, spread across buildings, including, the Winter Palace. You see that picture right there? I actually walked right under that. I remember that. Right under that. Yeah, I remember walking under that.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, now Catherine the Great, the founder of the Hermitage, gave the cats and status of guardians of the art galleries, noting that the cats were housed to keep rodents from the premises. Now they're taken care of by volunteers and museum staff. The museum general director, Mikhail Petrovsky, said in a press conference earlier this month that the unnamed French philanthropist was so taken with the animals that he left a sum of money for them in his will. He said, "Our French friend did a very good thing. It's a brilliant PR for both the cats and charity. Such a nice gesture." Unfortunately, in the French man's will, there was no money left for Vanessa. Sorry. Very sorry. I checked.
I was upset about it.
That your name was not mentioned, but 50 cats in Russia got some money.
I was upset about it.
Yeah, nobody from the squad got money. But
I would have been really upset if I actually knew this person and these cats got more money than me. I was like, really?
Imagine.
You would actually say, look at this cat got the money and I did, right?
Like, what?
Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.